Good morning, Terraria players, and welcome to my review of the Trinitarian mod alpha, version 0.3.3. It is an alpha, but there's already a good bit of stuff here despite that. Is it all good? Let's find out. So far in this current alpha, the mod has 3 bosses and quite a number of weapons. It has new enemies and materials as well, and 2 new structures. Pretty small, and that's okay for an alpha. Let's actually get into detail on the good and the bad, starting with the bad as usual. Even being an alpha, there's not really much bad here. I can say weapon balancing in the version I played, but it was only a handful of things that stood out as either really broken or in need of a buff. The Sirius and Royale Bow were the only really 2 big ones that were outliers among the 20 or so weapons I used. Outliers because those things were absolutely ridiculously strong, and they've been nerfed since then. For weak weapons, that Wolf Kill Bow was a big letdown, and unfortunately the Burger Gun, my own gun, was not that strong. Very sad. They're very weak when compared to other ranged weapons at that time, but I'm sure balancing will improve as the alpha goes along, and I think that there's actually a balancing pass due soon. The next downside I can think of, and I'm really grasping at anything to extend the runtime of this video, was the lack of modded accessories. There was very little. I used a single one in this run, the steel chain necklace, and that was it. To be honest, I think it's a needed thing to have accessories in a mod. The boss rework is next up for the mod's roadmap, but I believe that the bosses are fine. While everything can use improvement, the mod's bosses really don't need too much improvement, and that's a good thing. Life accessories is a pretty white hole that needs filling though. Giggity? I very much enjoy modded accessories and would rather have an entire arsenal of just modded stuff rather over using vanilla stuff, because I've used the vanilla stuff hundreds and hundreds of times before. You need something else to spice it up. The next section here is more of the middling stuff. Not good and not bad. It's a bit of both. The class expert and the focus on classes was neat to see, but it's very hard to tell what to do to get that whole system started. If I didn't have the guidance of the lead dev for the mod, there was no way I know how to get the ranger token. I never found the melee or summoner ones, but I did find the mage, after quite a while. Hopefully it gets an expansion and also a big update to the quest system in general. It wasn't really clear which quests required you to hunt what and what the rewards were and what classes they were for. Probably something later down the line, I assume. It looked like the quests had some kind of thing I needed to complete them, but they were too vague. So they're in the middle area of good and bad. Good that the system exists, bad that it isn't very clear on what it aims to do or how to start to access it. Now let's get to the good. And there's quite a lot of good for this alpha. For starters, the sprites. All of the sprites are top tier. I didn't see a single sprite I thought was ugly. Calamity even has ugly sprites, like the new Victide set they just did. Ugh, that is one of the worst. I'm getting off track. Anyways, for this mod, the art style and sprite quality are top tier. The weapons all look unique, and the limited accessories are all nice looking. And the bosses, the bosses look stellar. Whoever makes those sprite, good job. Well done. Now draw my persona. The next good thing of this mod is the actual weapons themselves. Very impressed with them. It did remind me of Polarities, where I praised all the unique weapons it had to offer. Side note, would you like me to do Polarities again? It's on 1.4 now, haha. Back to the weapons, I was a big fan, especially ones like the Night Sister's Bow and the Lord of the Forest. Very cool animations for them. Very creative. The Night Sister Bow was hilariously bugged though. Very much enjoyed it. The bosses are the next big good of the mod. I won't go super in depth of everyone here because that's the next section, but all 3 were good. Definitely my favorite of the 3 is Zolzar, but that's not to say the rest were bad. The downside of them is that their treasure bags were empty except for a repeat weapon that they dropped, but that's to be expected at this point. It is an alpha after all. They were misplaced in progression like a boss in the next one I'm doing, or too overstated to their point of progression like Plaguebringer Goliath. They were very fair for where they were at. Interesting attacks, great sprites, and a banger soundtrack for Zolzar. Bit of a meme soundtrack for Najor though. Good bosses. Now let's shift into the details on them. I'll rate them out of 10. Woohoo! To start with, we have Najor, the frozen elemental. Njor? I don't know. If I were to rank them out of the 3 bosses of this mod, Njor would be the lowest of the 3. It's not to say he was bad though. His attacks were hit or miss. The move where he brings in snow from the sides is great and engaging, but any attack where he goes immune got extremely aggravating, especially as it got lower and lower in health. Not fun to have him at a sliver of health and he suddenly goes immune for 30 seconds. Pretty much doubled or even tripled the length of the fight if it hadn't had the immunity phase. Again, the other attacks are fine, but the ones where he becomes immune are not. Never been a fan of immune phases for Terraria mods. Can't really judge the loot at this moment because it's a handful of weapons, so my rating of the boss is a 5 out of 10 currently. It's fine, just not super standout. Kinda there. The next boss was Zolzar, the Berserker Barbarian, my personal favorite of the 3 bosses added in this mod. The effects on it are really neat, and the moves it does are fun to dodge. The only issue that I have personally is the attack where his minions surround you and shoot lightning that does a bit too much damage. I generally see the air quotes correct damage an attack deals at between 100 to 150 by around the mech tier, and that certain attack was dealing up to 250. A bit high for a harder to dodge attack. I do give it props that it's not Elements Awoken tiers of damage though. For the rest of the moves, they're all solid. The use of minions worked well for this boss, and they were utilized well. The boss itself really didn't do much though, just floated menacingly towards you. As for the loot, it dropped Oofkill souls, which went into the Oofkill weapons, and the bow was not good in the slightest. Good thing it's getting reworked. Overall, I'd say it's about an 8.5 or so out of 10. Could use a bit of help on the loot side of things, and a fix for the summon item for it since it currently requires Luminite. Gotta fix that. The final boss of the mod is the Fallen Captain. I liked it. Cool attacks, nice use of text from the boss attack, and a cool sprite like the rest of the mod. It was just easy. Way too easy. Not Golem easy, but more of a Destroyer easy. Just kinda go in a circle and you're pretty much immune to all attacks. A bit of a letdown for the final mod boss in the progression, but it was okay because it dropped the Burger Gun. Its attacks were very well telegraphed, and if you paid attention to the really small text that the boss spoke, you could predict what it would do. The text does need to be bigger though. I couldn't really read it until I looked back at the footage of my fight. As for loot, it was solid. The mage weapon seemed bugged though. The Burger Gun was solid as well, but did horrible against cultists. Overall, I give the Fallen Captain a 7 out of 10. It's solid. Trinitarian mod. A very solid mod that has a huge amount of potential. It's only in its early stages, and yet its content is already very solid. What do I rate this mod? Overall, I give the Trinitarian mod alpha 0.3.3 a 7.5 out of 10. Yes, I can do 0.5s. It's my review. Get good. It's missing some fundamental things like accessories, but the rest of the mod is solid. A pretty good foundation. Good bosses, very unique weaponry, and Q-Boy. I did very much enjoy my playthrough of this alpha, and I encourage you all to check it out. Join their Discord and say hi, as I don't have my own server yet, but I'm in that one. Haha. Thank you all for watching. I'll see you all in the next video, which should be another showcase of the Anarchist beta, as there's a new one. If all the stars align. Anyways, Blade Burger out.